Victor Callahan had built a huge empire, and one evening he was planning to expand his business once again, until his lost sister's three little girls appeared at his doorstep with a wooden box in their hands and an old letter, a locket, and a photograph that came out of the box. And now, their future was in the hands of workaholic CEO Victor Callahan. The evening air was cool, carrying the faint scent of rain over the manicured lawns of willow. Victor Callahan stood in his study, the glow of a single lamp casting shadows. Across shelves lined with leather-bound books. At 51 he was a man who'd built an empire, Callahan Industries, a titan in renewable energy, yet the weight of his wealth felt heavier than his success. His mansion, with its marble floors and silent halls, was a monument to a life of ambition, but tonight, it felt empty. He sipped his coffee, his gaze drifting to a framed photo on his desk, a younger Victor with his sister, Ellen, laughing under a summer sky, a memory from a life before loss. The doorbell's sharp chime broke his thoughts, an intrusion in the quiet of his gated world. Victor frowned, setting the mug down. His assistant, Nora, handled visitors, but she'd left for the day. The chime rang again, insistent, and he crossed the foyer, his footsteps echoing. Through the frosted glass of the front door, he saw three small figures, their silhouettes blurred but unmistakably young. His chest tightened, a mix of curiosity and unease. He opened the door, the cool air rushing in, and found three girls standing on his doorstep, their faces pale under the porch light. The eldest, maybe 14, stood in front, her brown hair pulled into a tight braid, her green eyes steady but guarded. She wore a worn jacket, too thin for the evening chill, and clutched a small wooden box, its surface carved with delicate vines. Beside her, a younger girl about 11, with the same green eyes and a scattering of freckles, held the eldest's sleeve, her gaze darting nervously. The youngest, no older than 7, clung to the middle girl, her blonde curls tangled, a stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. They were thin, their clothes mismatched, but their faces held a quiet resolve that stopped Victor cold. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice gruff but softening, his eyes on the box in the eldest girl's hands. The eldest stepped forward, her voice clear despite a slight tremble. "I'm Grace," she said, her chin lifting. "These are my sisters Lily and Nora. We're looking for Victor Callahan." "You him?" Victor's brow furrowed, his hand still on the door. "I'm Victor," he said, his tone cautious. "What do you want?" Grace's grip tightened on the box, her eyes never leaving his. "We're orphans," she said, her words steady but heavy. "Our mom died last year and we've been on our own. She told us to find you, said you'd understand when you saw this." She held out the box, its carvings catching the light, and Victor's breath caught something about it. The vines, the worn wood, stirred a memory he couldn't place, a whisper from a past he'd buried. He took it, his fingers brushing the smooth surface, and felt a pang, sharp and unnameable. The girls watched him, their faces a mix of hope and fear, their silence louder than the wind. "Why me?" he asked, his voice low, his eyes searching Grace's. "What's in this box?" Grace swallowed, her voice softer now. "Mom said it's yours," she said. "She said it's proof of who we are, of what you owe us. Please just open it." Victor's heart thudded, the weight of her words sinking in. He glanced at Lily and Nora, their small forms huddled together, and felt a pull, a need to understand. "Come inside," he said, stepping back, his voice gentler. "It's cold out here." The girls hesitated, then followed, their footsteps soft on the marble floor. Victor led them to the living room, its leather sofas and crystal chandelier a stark contrast to their worn clothes. He set the box on a coffee table, his fingers lingering, the memory it stirred growing sharper. Ellen, a promise, a life he'd left behind. Grace sat on the edge of a couch, Lily and Nora close beside her, their eyes never leaving the box. Victor met Grace's gaze, his voice steady but urgent. "Tell me about your mom," he said. "Everything." Grace nodded, her hands clasped tight. "Her name was Ellen," she said, and Victor froze, the name a blade through his heart. "She said you knew her a long time ago. She kept that box hidden, told us it was our future. After she died, we had nowhere else to go. You're our last chance." Victor's hands trembled, the box a bridge to a past he'd thought was gone. Ellen, his sister, lost to him years ago, or so he'd believed. He opened the box, its hinges creaking, and found a locket, a letter, and a faded photo inside. The photo showed Ellen, older but unmistakable, with 3 young girls, Grace, Lily, Nora, smiling under a tree. Victor's throat tightened, the truth dawning, raw and impossible. These girls, these strangers, might be his nieces, and the box in his hands held a secret that could change everything. The living room of Victor Callahan's mansion was a quiet haven, its leather sofas and crystal chandelier a world away from the girls' worn jackets and scuffed shoes. Victor sat across from Grace, Lily, and Nora, the small wooden box on the coffee table between them, its carved vines seeming to pulse under the soft light. The box, locket, letter, and faded photo. Inside had cracked open a past he'd thought was gone. Ellen, his sister, smiling with these 3 girls in a photo he'd never seen. Grace, the eldest, watched him with steady green eyes, her hands clasped tight, while Lily's fingers fidgeted on her sleeve and Nora clutched her stuffed rabbit, her blonde curls framing wide eyes. Victor's heart pounded, the name Ellen echoing in his mind, a ghost from a life he'd buried under years of ambition and grief. He held the letter, its paper fragile, Ellen's handwriting a jolt of memory, her quick laugh and fierce dreams. "Tell me more about your mom," he said, his voice low, almost a plea. His eyes on Grace. "How did she know me? Why this box?" Grace took a breath, her voice steady but heavy with the weight of their story. "Mom raised us alone," she said. "We lived in a small house up north near a river. She worked as a seamstress, library aide, whatever kept us going. She got sick 2 years ago, lung cancer. Before she died, she told me about you. Said you were someone she loved, someone who'd lost her way. She gave me the box, said it was our only chance if things got bad." Victor's throat tightened, the word loved cutting deep. Ellen, his older sister, had been his anchor growing up, their parents gone young, their childhood a patchwork of foster homes. She dreamed of art, of a life beyond struggle, but they drifted apart after a fight 20 years ago over money, pride, his relentless drive to build Callahan Industries. He'd thought she was gone forever, her silence a wound he'd never healed. Now these girls, Grace, Lily, Nora, stood before him, claiming a connection he couldn't grasp. "Why didn't she reach out?" he asked, his voice raw, the letter trembling in his hands. "If she needed help, why wait?" Grace's eyes softened, her voice gentle. "Mom was proud," she said. "She said you'd built a big life, one she didn't fit into. She didn't want to burden you. But she kept that box, said it held the truth about us, about you." Victor opened the letter, his fingers careful, and read silently. Ellen's words were clear, her voice alive on the page. "Victor, if you're reading this, the girls found you. Grace, Lily, Nora. They're mine, and they're yours too, in a way you'll understand when you see the locket. Never stopped loving you even when we lost each other. Take care of them. They're stronger than they know." The words blurred, Victor's eyes stinging, the weight of her forgiveness heavier than her absence. He picked up the locket, its silver surface worn, and clicked it open. Inside was a tiny photo, Ellen and Victor as kids, arms around each other, and a lock of dark hair, hers. No. His breath hitched, memories flooding back. Ellen braiding her hair, teaching him to draw, promising they'd always have each other. He looked at the girls, their faces so like hers, and felt a truth he couldn't deny. "Are you our dad?" Lily asked, her voice small, her freckled face searching his. Nora leaned closer, her rabbit tight against her chest, waiting. Victor's heart stopped, the question a blade. "No," he said, his voice soft but firm, meeting Lily's gaze. "I'm not your father. Ellen was my sister. If she's your mom, you're my nieces." Grace's shoulders eased, relief flickering in her eyes, but Nora's lip trembled. "Then why didn't you come for us?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Victor knelt, his voice thick. "I didn't know," he said. "Ellen and we lost touch years ago. Thought she was gone. If I'd known about you, I'd have been there." The girls sat silent, their eyes on the box, its contents a bridge between them. Victor stood, his mind racing, the weight of their presence shifting something deep. "You're staying here tonight," he said, his tone resolute. "We'll figure this out." He called his assistant, Claire, his voice urgent but calm. "I need you back," he said. "Bring clothes, toiletries, anything 3 girls might need, ages 7, 11, 14. Get a lawyer here tomorrow, someone who handles family matters." Claire's voice was steady, her efficiency a comfort. "On it," she said. "Anything else?" "Yeah," Victor said, his eyes on the girls. "Find a social worker, someone discreet. I need to know what these kids have been through." He led the girls to guest rooms, their small forms dwarfed by the mansion's halls. Grace carried the box, her steps careful, while Lily held Nora's hand, their whispers soft. Victor watched them settle, Nora clutching her rabbit, and felt a pull, a need to protect, to understand, to make this right. He returned to the study, the locket in his hand, Alan's letter on his desk. He called his lawyer Tom, his voice low. I need you to dig into Ellen Callahan, he said. My sister. Find out where she's been, what happened to her, who the girl's father is, and start paperwork, guardianship, whatever it takes to keep them safe. Tom's pause was brief, his tone cautious. This is big, Victor, he said. You sure you're ready for this? I don't have a choice, Victor said, his eyes on the locket, Alan's face a call he couldn't ignore. Their family. He sat through the night, the mansion silent, the box's secrets a weight he carried alone. Grace, Lily, Nora, their faces, their courage, had opened a door to a past he'd fled, and the truth they held was just beginning to unfold. The morning sun cast a soft light through the tall windows of Victor Callahan's mansion, its warmth barely reaching the dining room where he sat, a plate of untouched toast before him. Across the table, Grace, Lily, and Nora ate quietly, their movements careful as if testing the edges of this strange new space. Grace, 14, cut her pancakes with precision, her green eyes darting to Victor, while Lily, 12, pushed her food around her freckled hands restless. Nora, 7, clutched her stuffed rabbit with one hand, nibbling a strawberry, her blonde curls catching the light. The wooden box, its carved vines a silent witness, rested in Victor's study, but its contents, Alan's letter, the locket, the photo, burned in his mind. These girls, his nieces, had walked into his life with a truth he was still grappling to understand. Last night, after settling them into guest rooms, Victor had stayed up, Alan's letter in hand, her words a bridge to a past he'd thought was lost. His sister, gone from his life for 20 years, had raised these girls alone, her pride keeping her from reaching out, her love for them etched in every line of her letter. The locket, with its tiny photo of their childhood, was proof of their bond, but the girls' story, of loss, survival, and their mother's dying wish, demanded more than memory. Victor's heart ached, not just for Ellen, but for the years he'd missed, the family he hadn't known he had. He cleared his throat, his voice gentle but firm. Did you sleep okay? He asked, his eyes moving between the girls, searching for a way in. Grace nodded, her voice steady. The beds are nice, she said, a faint smile breaking through. Nora said it's like a hotel. Nora giggled, her voice small. The pillows are so fluffy, she said, hugging her rabbit. But I miss our old house. Lily's fork paused, her eyes on her plate. It wasn't much, she said, her tone quiet. But it was ours. Victor's chest tightened, their words a glimpse into a life he hadn't shared. Tell me about your house, he said, leaning forward, his voice soft. What was it like with your mom? Grace glanced at her sisters, then spoke, her voice warm with memory. It was small by a river, she said. Mom grew herbs in pots, taught us to cook. She'd read to us at night. Poetry, stories about faraway places. Even when she was sick, she'd sing, make us laugh. Lily's eyes glistened, her voice barely above a whisper. She made us feel safe, she said. Even when we had nothing. Nora's lip trembled, her rabbit pressed close. I want her back, she said, her voice breaking. Victor's throat closed, the girl's grief a mirror to his own. He reached across the table, his hand open, hesitant. I miss her too, he said, his voice raw. I didn't know she was gone. Until you came. I'm so sorry. Grace took his hand, her grip firm, her eyes steady. She believed in you, she said. That's why we're here. The moment held them, a fragile thread of trust, until Claire, Victor's assistant, entered her arms full of bags. I brought clothes, toiletries, she said, her voice bright but professional. And breakfast looks great. Mind if I join? Victor nodded, grateful for her warmth, and Claire sat, chatting with the girls, easing the tension. After breakfast, he led them to the study, the box waiting on his desk, its presence a quiet pull. We need to talk about what's next, he said, his voice steady, sitting across from them. You're my nieces and I want you to stay here with me, but we need to make it legal, guardianship, school, a real home. Lily's eyes widened, her voice cautious. You mean live here? She asked. Like forever? Victor smiled, small but real. If you want, he said. I know it's a lot. We'll take it one step at a time. Nora hugged her rabbit, her voice hopeful. Can I bring my books? She asked. Mom's stories? Every single one, Victor said, his heart lifting at her smile. Grace's gaze stayed on the box, her voice measured. What about Mom's things? Her letter said there's more, stuff she left for us, for you. Victor's fingers brushed the box, Ellen's words echoing. They're yours too, in a way you'll understand. I'll find out, he said. My lawyer Tom is looking into Ellen's life, where she was, what she left behind. We'll get answers. He called Tom, his voice urgent but calm. Any progress? He asked, stepping to the window, the girl's eyes on him. Tom's voice was steady, his news brief but heavy. Ellen lived off the grid, he said. Small town, no digital footprint. I found a storage unit in her name, paid up for years. Could be something there, papers, belongings. I'm getting access tomorrow. And the girl's father. He's not listed, might be a dead end. Victor's jaw tightened, the storage unit a new thread. Go there, he said. Bring everything. And push the guardianship papers. I want them safe. He hung up, turning to the girls, his voice gentle. Your mom had a storage unit, he said. Might have more of her things. We'll check it out soon. Grace's eyes brightened, her voice soft. Her sketchbooks, she said. She drew all the time. Maybe they're there. Victor nodded, his mind racing. Ellen's art, a piece of her he'd forgotten. Her sketches of rivers, faces, dreams. He spent the day with the girls, showing them the mansion's garden. Its roses a burst of color. Lily ran through the paths, her laughter light, while Nora picked a flower, tucking it into her rabbit's ear. Grace stayed close, her eyes on Victor, a quiet trust growing. That evening, Claire returned with a social worker, Amy, her presence calm but thorough. Amy spoke with the girls, her questions gentle, piecing together their year alone, foster homes, running away, Grace keeping them together. Victor listened, his heart heavy there. Resilience a mirror to Ellen's strength. Amy met his gaze, her voice firm. They need stability, she said. If you're serious, guardianship's the first step. But it's a commitment. I'm serious, Victor said, his voice unwavering, the locket's weight in his pocket a vow. He tucked the girls in, Nora's flower on her nightstand, and returned to the study, the box a beacon. Ellen's letter lay open, her words a call. Take care of them. Victor's life, his empire, his solitude, was shifting, the girl's courage and the box's secrets pulling him toward a future he hadn't imagined, one he was ready to build. The afternoon light filtered through the tall oaks outside Victor Callahan's mansion, casting dappled shadows across the study where he stood, the wooden box open on his desk. Contents, Ellen's letter, the locket with their childhood photo, and the faded picture of her. With Grace, Lily, and Nora, were a map to a past Victor was still piecing together. The girls, his nieces, were upstairs, their laughter drifting faintly as Claire helped them unpack clothes from the bag she'd brought. Grace, 14, with her steady gaze, Lily, 12, with her restless energy, and Nora, 7, with her stuffed rabbit and quiet hope, had turned Victor's solitary life upside down in just days. Ellen's letter, her words raw and forgiving, lay heavy in his heart. Take care of them. They're stronger than they know. Victor's fingers brushed the locket, Ellen's face as a child a mirror to the girls, a call he couldn't ignore. 2 days had passed since Amy, the social worker, had sat with the girls, her gentle questions pulling out their story, a year of foster homes, fleeting escapes, Grace keeping them together through sheer will. Victor's resolve had hardened, his lawyer, Tom, now pushing for guardianship, but the storage unit Tom had found in Ellen's name was a new thread, a chance to uncover more of her life. Victor's mind churned, Ellen's pride, her silence, her art, her sketchbooks, Grace had said, pieces of a puzzle he needed to solve. For the girls, for himself. He called Tom, his voice steady but urgent, pacing the study. What's in the storage unit? He asked, his eyes on the box. Did you get in? Tom's voice crackled through the phone, calm but weighted. I'm there now, he said. It's a small unit, upstate, near where Ellen lived. Boxes of clothes, books, some furniture. But the big find is her sketchbooks, dozens of them filled with drawings, notes, even letters she never sent. There's also a journal, looks personal. I'm bringing it all back tonight. Victor's breath caught, Ellen's sketchbooks a lifeline to her heart. Any sign of the girls? Father? He asked, his voice low, the question a shadow. Nothing yet, Tom said. No names, no records. Ellen kept her life tight. The journal might have something, but it'll take time. Bring it all, Victor said, his tone firm. And hurry. He hung up, his gaze falling on the photo of Ellen with the girls, their smiles bright under a tree. He carried it upstairs, where Claire was helping Nora arrange books on a shelf. Lily, sprawling on the floor with a puzzle, and Grace folding clothes, her movements precise. The guest room, once sterile, felt alive, their small touches. Nora's flower lilies scattered. Pencils, making it theirs. Got a minute? Victor asked, his voice soft, holding up the photo. I want to hear more. About your mom, about these moments. Grace paused, her eyes on the photo, a smile tugging at her lips. That was at the river, she said, sitting on the bed, Lily and Nora scooting closer. Mom took us there every summer. She'd draw us, tell stories about when she was a kid. Lily's voice was quiet, her fingers tracing the puzzle. She said she had a brother once, she said, glancing at Victor. Someone who built things like castles in the sky. Victor's chest tightened, Ellen's words threw Lily a knife of regret. That was me, he said, his voice raw, sitting beside them. We were close until we weren't. I wish I'd found her sooner. Nora climbed into his lap, her rabbit soft against his arm. Did you draw with her? She asked, her voice hopeful. Victor smiled, small but real. All the time, he said. She was better though. Her sketches were like magic. Grace's eyes met his, her voice careful. Her sketchbooks, she said. If we find them, can we keep them? They're yours, Victor said, his voice a vow. Everything she left, it's for you. Tom arrived that evening, his car packed with boxes from the storage unit. Victor and the girls gathered in the living room, the air thick with anticipation. Tom set out the sketchbooks. Their covers worn, pages filled with rivers, faces, the girls as babies, and notes in Ellen's hand, poems, dreams, fragments of love. Grace traced a drawing of herself, her eyes glistening, while Lily held a sketch of the river, her fingers trembling. Nora clutched a tiny book of flowers, her smile bright. Victor opened the journal, its pages dense with Ellen's thoughts. He read silently, her words. A window, the girls are my light. Victor, if you ever find this, know I forgave you. I kept the locket, hoped you'd remember us. A later entry mentioned a man, brief and vague. He left before Nora was born. No name, no trace. The girls are mine alone. Victor's jaw tightened. The father a dead end, but Ellen's love for the girls a fire that burned through every page. Grace looked up, her voice soft. She wrote about you, she said, holding a sketchbook. Said you'd find your way back one day. Victor's throat closed, Ellen's faith a weight he didn't deserve. He hugged Grace, then Lily, then Nora, their warmth a promise. I'm here now, he said, his voice thick. We're family. He called Amy, his voice urgent. The girls are staying, he said. Push the guardianship. Papers, whatever it takes. And find schools, good ones for all three. Amy's voice was warm, her support clear. You're doing right by them, she said. I'll make it happen. The girls slept with the sketchbooks near, Nora's flower beside her. Victor sat in the study. The journal open, Ellen's words a guide. The box had brought the girls to him, but its secrets, Ellen's art, her love, were rebuilding a family he'd thought was lost, a future he was ready to fight for. The autumn sun hung low over Willow Heights, painting the mansion's gardens in hues of gold and amber. Victor Callahan stood in the living room, its high ceilings and polished floors. Now softened by the girls' presence. Grace's books stacked on a shelf, Lily's puzzles scattered across a table, Nora's stuffed rabbit perched on a couch. A year had passed since Grace, Lily, and Nora had knocked on his door, their small wooden box, a locket, a letter, and a photo inside, unveiling a truth that had reshaped his world. Ellen, his sister, lost to him for decades, had been their mother, and these girls, his nieces, had become his family. The box, once a mystery, now rested in Grace's room, its carvings a quiet reminder of their journey. Tonight, Victor was hosting a gathering not for business or power but for love, a celebration of the girls, of Ellen, of a future they were building together. The past year had been a whirlwind of change. Victor had won guardianship of Grace, Lily, and Nora, the papers signed after months of meetings with Amy, the social worker, whose steady guidance had eased the way. The girls were enrolled in Willow Academy, a school with art programs and quiet classrooms where they thrived. Grace, now 15, led her debate team, her green eyes sharp with confidence. Lily, 13, filled sketchbooks of her own, her freckled hands steady with a pencil. Nora ate, read poetry aloud, her blonde curls bouncing, her laughter a melody that filled the mansion's halls. Ellen's sketchbooks and journal, found in her storage unit, were treasures they shared, each page a piece of her heart, her love for the girls a thread that bound them to Victor. The gathering was Victor's idea, a way to honor Ellen and mark a new beginning. The living room opened to the garden, where tables were set with lanterns, their glow warm against the evening chill. Guests arrived: Claire, whose loyalty had become friendship; Tom, whose legal work had secured their family; Amy, whose faith in Victor had never wavered; and neighbors, teachers, and classmates, drawn by the girl's story, now a quiet legend in Willow. A large canvas stood covered in the garden, a secret Victor and the girls had worked on for weeks, its unveiling the night's heart. Victor stood by the door, his suit soft gray, the locket in his pocket a steady weight. Grace approached, her dress simple but elegant, her braid replaced by loose waves. "You nervous?" she asked, her voice teasing but her smile warm. "A little," Victor admitted, his chuckle low. "This is for you three. I want it to be right." "It will be," Grace said, her hand brushing his arm, her confidence a gift. Lily bounded over, her sketchbook tucked under her arm, her energy bright. "Nora's practicing her part," she said, grinning. "She's gonna steal the show." Nora giggled, twirling nearby, a flower crown in her hair, her rabbit safe on a chair. "Oh, ready?" she said, her voice clear, her eyes shining. The evening began with dinner, the air filled with laughter and clinking glasses. Victor stood, his voice carrying over the crowd, warm but steady. "Thank you for being here," he said, his eyes sweeping the faces. "A year ago, 3 girls walked into my life with a box and a story. Grace, Lily, and Nora, they're my nieces, my family, and they've shown me what matters. Tonight, we honor their mother, Ellen, and the future we're building together." The crowd clapped, their warmth genuine, and Victor gestured to the girls who joined him, their faces glowing. Grace spoke first, her voice clear, her words measured but powerful. "Our mom taught us to hold on," she said, her eyes on the crowd. "She left us a box, her love, and it brought us here. Victor's our home now, and we're so grateful." Lily stepped forward, her voice soft but bold. "Mom drew the world for us," she said, holding up a sketchbook, its pages open to a river scene. "She's still with us in every line, every story." Nora took the center, her flower crown bright, her voice small but strong. "Mom said we're stars," she said, smiling. "Now we shine together with Uncle Victor." The crowd erupted, their applause a tide, many wiping tears, their hearts full. Victor hugged them, his throat tight, their courage a light he'd never known. He led the group to the garden where the canvas waited, its cover stirring in the breeze. "Ellen was an artist," he said, his voice thick. "Her sketches inspired this, a gift from the girls and me for her, for all of us." He pulled the cover away, revealing a mural, Ellen's River, painted from her sketches, with Grace, Lily, and Nora under a tree, their faces alive with joy. The crowd gasped, then cheered, the mural a bridge between past and present, Ellen's love eternal. Grace's eyes glistened, her hand finding Victor's, while Lily traced the painted river, her smile wide. Nora clapped, her flower crown slipping, her laughter bright. The night unfolded with music, the girls dancing with classmates, Claire sharing stories, Tom raising a glass. Amy approached Victor, her voice warm. "You've given them a home," she said. "Ellen would be proud." Victor nodded, his eyes on the girls, their joy a fire in his heart. "They gave me one too," he said, his voice low, the locket warm in his pocket. Months later, the girls settled deeper into their new life. Grace won a debate trophy, Lily's art hung in the school gallery, Nora read her poems at a recital. Victor scaled back at Callahan Industries, naming Claire his deputy, his days now filled with school events and quiet evenings, the girls' laughter his anchor. He started a foundation in Ellen's name, funding art programs for kids like the girls, its first grant painting murals in their old town, a tribute to their river. One spring day, Victor took the girls to that river, its banks green and alive. They carried Ellen's sketchbooks, their pages open to her drawings of this place. Grace scattered wildflower seeds, Lily sketched the water, Nora sang a song Ellen had taught them. Victor watched, the locket in his hand, Ellen's love a pulse in his chest. Grace hugged him, her voice soft. "Thanks for finding us," she said, her eyes bright. Victor pulled them close, Lily and Nora in his arms, his voice thick. "You found me," he said. The river a quiet witness. The box had opened a door, but the girls, their strength there. Love, had built a family, a legacy that would carry Ellen's light forever.